What's going on, guys? TKD123 back video, and today we're gonna be doing another review this week. I know we just did Jay-Z's 444, but I thought, you know what, might as well double up because both these albums are pretty short here, so I thought, you know, just be a nice little quick double punch, which, just hit you guys with some, more music reviews, because why not? You know what I'm saying? Gaming news is kind of slow lately. We got more things dropping up, going on to next week where we have the Destiny 2 beta. We got some COD World War II zombie stuff we're gonna talk about next week, but we got tons of stuff that we'll focus on later this week. But right now, we're gonna talk about a new album from a new artist, right? So this is the double new, and this guy, I liked it, but I'm gonna get into more of it into this later review. So let me start off by introducing Plaza here, and I will be reviewing his Shadow EP. Now, one has to kind of answer, how did I find this man? What is it, right? So I frequent the OVO Reddit a lot of times, the official OVO Reddit, and they are quick to kind of name off artists that are pretty new to OVO that have been recently signed on, and Plaza was one of those individuals, and he got signed on I think around a month ago, 2 months ago, something like that. However, I don't know how old this EP is. This could be from last year, I don't know, but this is just his debut EP that we have right now to go off of. I've done light Google searches on DatPiff, whatever. I don't see any other mixtapes or any other work or SoundCloud that he's on. Maybe I missed it, I don't know, but presumably this is his only project that we have to base off of. So this artist, like I said, is a new OVO person to the label, and with that being said, he's also an R&B artist, as defined here on this EP. Maybe he does rapping on the side, I don't know, but it looks like he's mainly just going to be a R&B artist from here on out. And this doesn't alleviate the overall kind of issue I have with OVO right now, and that is that there is a very, very high amount of R&B artists on OVO, right? If we're talking about P&D, if we're talking about Jay Jordan, if we're talking about Roy Woods, what I'm saying? Like, there are just, there's an overabundance, what I'm saying, of a lot of, R&B artists that tend to, sing and stuff like that. Just a lot of that, right? And I feel, at least from my personal standpoint, there's a lack of, rappers. Like, I would love to see, like, an East Coast rapper from, like, New York or whatever, what I'm saying? Like, get signed on to OVO, or like the East Coast rapper from Philly or something like that, what I'm saying, or Atlanta, right? Like, be signed on to OVO. I would love that. I would love a little variation with that, and not just be, every other artist is pretty much, R&B. But to each his own, we have Plaza. Now, to get into some logistics of this EP, it is 5 tracks, so very, very short, and it tops off at 23 minutes on the playback. So this is definitely like a simple drive, to school or like whatever, and you'll get through it easy, right? And it definitely is a breeze, I'd say. Like, this is one of those EPs that, to maybe its detriment even, it does fly by for a lot of different reasons. So just kind of an overall kind of mission statement, if you will, like title statement to this whole review. I will say that Plaza definitely did a very, very good job on his EP. I feel that he did a very, very good job. He has clearly an ability to sing that is very, very good, and clearly worthy, and clearly earning of the OVO spot on the label. So definitely do feel that that is also warranted for this individual. I feel like he definitely deserves to be on OVO and stuff like that. So definitely there's no issues there. And overall, I did like the EP, right? I found myself getting kind of hooks stuck in my head and stuff like that. I would be walking down the street, whatever, or driving and not listen to this, like listen to a podcast and kind of think of a song from this EP. Like, overall, it's a very, very good EP. It's very good. It's a good introduction, I'd say, as well. But there is some pretty big issues I have with this EP. And kind of the biggest one I want to hone in on and really kind of like make sure that you guys are aware of is that a lot of the tracks here sound the same, right? They all kind of have this very low-key, mundane, think of like Weekend mixtape-esque type of sound to it, right? So think of it a little bit like like the Weekend sound to his old mixtapes that were really dark and cryptic, right? And then think of maybe like an Elijah Blake type of sound. What I'm saying? Like, it's a little bit like that, right? Where we have a little bit of a high pitch, obviously, him being white, what I'm saying? So like a little bit more of a high pitched voice, that's neither here nor there, but you know what I'm saying? You guys get the trend, right? And now, it just definitely does sound a lot like the same, and that's where I feel like it's his biggest flaw, where I feel like there aren't songs here that really stand out. Like, there was one song that really does stand out to me overall, and that is track 2, Personal. I love that track. That track has a great chorus. It's super dope. It's just a nice track overall, right? I feel like, you know, if this EP was a little more varied, right? Like, let's say he had more of a lighthearted track, you know, somewhere else in the album, and he had track 2, which is on right now. I feel like it would have been a great track to show off that, you know, he can be a little bit dark, a little bit cryptic, a little bit edgy, but, you know, it's the whole thing. And granted, of course, the title of this is Shadow, so of course we're gonna expect a little bit, you know, of a dark theme to it overall, you know what I'm saying? And plus with the artwork and everything, like, you know, it's not like he misled us, right? It's not like he, like, you know, called this album, you know, Springtime Summer Roses. Like, he called it Shadow for a reason, right? So there's definitely you know, some dark elements to this whole thing, and, you know, but the thing is that, like, it is a little bit too prevalent in this EP, you know what I'm saying? And that could be me nitpicking, me, you know, just being too aggressive and like how I look at things. But, you know, just from my perspective, all the songs really do have a similar sound to them. And, you know, another track I want to highlight is at the end with Love You Again. I like that track as well. That's one of the ones that, you know, kind of sound for me, but pretty much, you know, every other track is just kind of like for me, like, it's just whatever. But, you know, those two really do make the EP, I feel, at least good in my, you know, in my own opinion. And then, you know, I don't know if it's maybe the style of this whole EP or maybe the way he, you know, wants to produce these songs. If it's him, you know, well, I assume it's him, but, you know, like him actually doing the beat and the Jamel and stuff like that. But there is a ton of bass on like a bunch of these songs, right? And, like, you know, for the average person, why am I complaining about more bass, right? You know, bass is whatever, right? But, you know, it got a little bit too annoying for me. It got a little bit too redundant, a little bit too repetitive, at least for my taste. So, you know, overall, if you love bass, definitely check out this EP, because you will not be left wanting any more bass, because there's plenty of it on here. But, you know, overall, you know, it's just a thing that I want to just, you know, take note of. So overall, you know, from this new OVO signee, right? Of course, I have a bias, of course, to OVO. You guys are all aware. I'm a very, very big OVO fan. I'm sure you can see the owl right here behind me from my first time going to VIP. Obviously, you know, I have a clear bias, you know, when it comes to OVO, right? And clear bias when it comes to Drake and stuff like that. And like anyone kind of associated with OVO, I'm going to definitely give a shot. And I like to think that, you know, that like OVO when they're signing, right? Like, you know, like let's say it's 40 and Drake, right? I feel like they have a certain standard that they want OVO to have, right? And I feel like here, you know, with Plaza, he definitely lives up to those standards, whatever they may be, because I feel like this guy has potential. He, you know, has some good tracks on this. It's a little bit mundane, it's a little bit redundant at times, but overall, I feel like this is, you know, a pretty good EP to start off a career. And ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for this video. If you all enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share down below. I appreciate all the feedback you guys give me. Thanks for watching, and as always, I got you.